Morning, my name is Tanya Rubin, and I'm a registered social worker, perinatal bereavement counsellor, and logotherapist. I came to the world of infertility through my own personal struggle almost 17 years ago. Being privy to this physical and emotional whirlwind, I felt I couldn't leave. And so I have been working with couples and individuals for the past 17 years. I always say that although my focus is on infertility, my days are spent dealing with grief and loss, which brings me to this topic. What comes to mind when you think about the words involuntary childlessness? It's not the picture that you might have had in your mind. Maybe you pictured your life filled with love, finding the right partner, marriage perhaps, and then children, but a completely different picture now exists. Many patients tell me, when I was young, I assumed that I'd become a mother one day. At no point did I consider this wouldn't be part of my destiny. With the naivety of a child, through my 20s and 30s, I thought I'd have children easily. And so, involuntary childlessness triggers thoughts and words of struggle, pain, sadness, and loss. The treatment journey, too, often means having to cope with a roller coaster of emotions, from joy and excitement, to rage and envy, to hope and despair, to grief and great sadness. It really is a life crisis. If we look at the global definition of infertility, it will tell you when you do a Google search that the main symptom of infertility is just the inability to fall pregnant. But what is it really? As a patient, you would know that it means early mornings, doctor's appointments, injections, a whole lot of negatives, a loss of hope, and a whirlwind of unraveling emotions. In February this year, the latest statistics told us that 1 in 4 couples in developing countries are affected worldwide by infertility. That is about 48.5 million couples. That is an insane amount of people. Some doctors and researchers would go as far as to say that infertility is becoming an epidemic. When we look at involuntary childlessness, we could say that 10% of people are childless due to choice, 90% experience some form of childlessness due to circumstances beyond their control, which can of course include infertility. That means that 1 in 8 people listening to this talk are struggling with some level of infertility. 1 in 4 of you have experienced loss, yet the struggle is often silent. If you are involuntary childless, that is, childlessness not by choice, but childless by circumstance, it means that you belong to a group of people who have wanted to become mothers or parents, but have not been able to for a myriad of reasons. Some of these reasons may include, firstly, experiencing infertility as a result of unrealized adoption processes or infertility, being past childbearing years, or wanting children supposedly too late, or because of premature ovarian failure, which we have no control over, not having optimal life circumstances to pursue having or raising a child, and that could be because of a financial status, because of a relationship status, where possibly it's the wrong partner, or you're not wanting to choose to be a parent as a single parent, being in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be a parent or who has children already, dealing with health issues, and so many more factors. If we look at society, being pregnant is everywhere. It is all around us. There is absolutely no escape. It is all consuming. And as a fertility patient, we are often consumed by thoughts such as, when is it my turn? It is often the one thing that we can't do in our lives, yet it should be the one thing that we were biologically made to do and should be able to do naturally and easily. We also do not have a frame of reference for this experience. In life, growing up, we are not taught at school how to cope with infertility. There are no lessons or life skills provided for such a journey. Our own society, religions, and cultures don't know how to cope with this. The perfect definition of involuntary childlessness that I came across was that it is a life-changing process that can happen gradually or suddenly. Regardless, it involves an absolute shock to our system, an unexpected and often desperately unwanted change in your self-concept and life narrative, and an experience of loss and grief that are beyond what words can express. In our generation, however, so many things have been developed to control infertility, such as treatments, processes, procedures. However, these also feed into the failures, since if these amazing procedures and techniques have been developed, then why am I still not pregnant? Hence, infertility often becomes an emotional experience of post-traumatic stress disorder. The journey to motherhood is coupled with years of tears, emotional pain, physical pain, and a spiritual crisis. We invest so much on so many levels: time, finances, energy, and heartache. Yet our return on this investment, unlike any other investment in life, is just not matched or guaranteed. The grief experience with involuntary childlessness is complicated. What makes the grief of being involuntary childless particularly complicated is that the loss is ambiguous rather than concrete or tangible. When losses are concrete, people tend to take them more seriously. Ambiguous losses tend to be invisible. They often are not noticed or acknowledged in the first place, and if they are typically minimized because they are seen then as less traumatic. As a result, you may find yourself often experiencing your loss and grief in private, and you may feel disenfranchised from society. Infertility then becomes a profound journey of grief, often termed disenfranchised grief. Why disenfranchised? Well, let's look at that a bit. We just don't know where to put it. It is a grief experience with unique complexities. No matter what type of loss you've experienced, your grief is valid. Still, society often fails to acknowledge some types of grief, making it challenging to express your sadness or begin to navigate the healing process. It is a language that we as fertility patients speak fluently, yet society is often deaf to. We are not allowed to experience the grief since no one else can see it. Society is also so uncomfortable with this grief. I think the grief model we are all very familiar with is part of this journey, though there are unique aspects to it as well. So what has been lost if no one can see it? What it is really about is shattered dreams. For me, it is a loss of potential, crushed hope, a wish, a want, a dream, a desire. Once our switch of maternal instinct has been turned on, there is no switch to turn it off. It can feel like others around us are living our dream, our own personal dream. It is the silent pain of being involuntary childless. The yearning to have children isn't something you can turn on or off. Today and throughout history, there are many women who are living with this unmet natural craving, the untamed life force within us that calls for us to reproduce is so hard to escape. And there are triggers everywhere. You can get a sense of how lonely, isolating, and exhausting this journey is. Shame and silence are often factors that are included in this journey too. Many patients facing involuntary childlessness find that their grief is compounded by shame. The grief of childlessness is often not seen or validated by others. It can also bring up existential issues about life's purpose, causing us to ask, why are we here? What is the purpose to our life? The grief also stays with us throughout different life cycles. Grief changes, but it does not end. The multifaceted grief of involuntary childlessness will impact on a person throughout different ages and stages of their lives, and also different times of year. It is a struggle to see the reality of what has happened and how to move forward. But how do you change your expectations or paint a new picture in your life? Motherhood and womanhood often equate to an invisible living loss. Comments from others seem to keep us stuck in a constant mourning cycle. Comments such as, just relax, adopt, try again, miracles happen, use a surrogate, or just find a donor. They don't understand what all this means. For them, it might be just a comment, but for you as a patient, the impact is often long-lasting. Perhaps, however, it is about reframing the journey and trying to focus on what the gift of grief could be. Maybe it's about accepting life on life's terms. Emotions sometimes enable us to deal with the devastating loss and to start living the life unexpected. At times, it might move us from the stuckness of grief. We can choose to stay in the dark or to move very, very slowly through the dark into some form of lightness. Grief should be seen as a dialogue. It needs to be shared, not as a monologue. We need to find our own board of directors, and what those are could be our own support system, a doctor, a friend, a therapist, family members, people who help and support us in the journey. But how do we do this? Maybe we need to find our own meaning. Sometimes it's about understanding what your own raw emotions are. It might be about feeling both the positive and negative emotions in this journey. It may be about giving yourself permission to feel all the emotions, happy, sad, angry, and scared. Be honest with yourself about what you really feel and acknowledge and accept how hard this journey really is. Talk to someone and find help on how to release it. The most important thing that I have learned in the past 16 years of working with infertility is, first of all, you are not alone. Although people are mostly silent about their journeys, there are so many people experiencing this and experiencing what you are going through. You just need to find where they are. Grief is a process. You absolutely can and need to grieve this journey, no matter how intangible it feels. You can experience grief even if there isn't a physical loss. Shame and guilt are the emotions that keep us from moving forward. They are downward spiraling, but very much a real part of the process. Find your people, whether they are online or a support group or a therapist or whoever it is. It's so important to find people that help you through the journey. And lastly, it's about, if you're able to, accepting the reality of where you are right now. You are not crazy, you are grieving. It's important to remember that you are more than the diagnosis, more than the losses you have suffered. Thank you.